So I'll start the interview. Hey, how's it
Cool.
going, man?
Hey, what's up?
We got Bryan, another typology interview. How's it going?
Hey, pretty good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice
It's
to
been a
meet
little
you.
crazy outside my house, but
Yeah. So we got you as another type twin from yeah, Austin and Friends, I guess. He was the first one on
yep.
my channel that I interviewed.
Oh,
Um,
was he? I didn't know that.
from your
For our
type
tech twins.
twins, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty challenging interview, but we'll get into that.
I didn't think it was all that. We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so like how did you get into typology?
Oh man. It was about 7, 8 years ago. Um, is when I really got into it. I had heard of Myers-Briggs, I think at work, over a decade ago. And funny enough, I had originally typed myself as an INTJ. I was like, yeah, I want
Oh,
to be
nice.
that, right? Is what I thought at the time. And then later on, it years later, after I was focused in my career, and then I started getting a lot of like burnout cycles. I was burning out really bad. I would have to, take a vacation out of nowhere, and I would just a lot of really just things were kind of falling apart. But every 6 months, it was very predictable. But I still kept pushing on and kept going. So then I'm like, okay, there's got to be answers somewhere. So I started turning to MBTI and reading about type profiles and stuff like that. Then I got into the Jungian functions, and eventually it all went, it went in circles and circles. And I had typed myself as an INTP after that because I was in a very introverted time in my life. I was very isolated, that sort of thing. I mean, I was married and everything; it was fine, but didn't have any friends. Didn't go out a lot. It was just all in on career. And then I typed myself ENTP because I was starting to see the extroverted side of myself.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got to David Chen. I was like, oh damn, great. It went all the way back to INTJ again, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it made sense though. It made perfect sense, just given how my life turned out.
Cool. And like you agreed with your type as soon as you got it?
Yeah, pretty
No
much,
problems. Yeah.
no problems at all. I was ready for it. I was like, look,
Yeah.
I'm tired of going in circles. Just give it to me straight. Let's go.
And then you've
And
been talking with your type twins for a bit, and so
oh yeah,
they've confirmed it for you basically?
oh, oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Same interests, same problems, same. We're on different. Let's say you could say like different steps in the path, right? So
right,
in different
yeah.
things, so I can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
it. I'm like, oh, I had that problem 3 years ago, or oh, hey, he's older than me, I'm probably going to have that issue, or something like
Right.
that. So it's, or I'm working through that right now. So
Right,
it's,
right. Yeah, you don't actually have to go through the steps in order either. Like you
oh
can
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it goes in. Yeah, it's all kind. It's fascinating. Actually, it's really fascinating.
really cool. And then so it's a good learning experience then to know all of your type twins and to see the struggles that they've gone through. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It was huge. It's taught me a lot, actually. I've
Yeah.
gotten a lot of, I feel like I've gotten a lot of good personal growth out of it as well.
Right, yeah.
Just from the last month of talking with them, it's been amazing.
Yeah, so how, like you guys are all blast plays, right? So like how do you mediate who gets to talk and who gets to be quiet?
Oh God. It's usually Austin talks the least.
Oh wow, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't
Good
get
on
in a
him.
word edgewise. I feel bad, He doesn't get in
Yeah.
a word edgewise between me and Josh. So Josh and I would just completely dominate the conversation because
Okay.
we're both obsessed with personal growth and all kinds of little hacks that we were into and stuff like that.
Right. Um i- is it weird to talk to someone of the same type? Like does it feel like you're talking to yourself in a way or like no? Because
No, it
from other
was
type
nice.
twins they've said it was weird, it was awkward. It's like seeing an ugly version of yourself in the mirror or like seeing like not in the other person but seeing
Yeah, yeah.
yourself having them be a mirror to you like your type 20 is your mirror.
It hasn't been bad and like a negative experience, but
Right.
it's been one of those experiences where when I would reflect on it, I'd be like, wow, he's struggling with that thing that I was struggling with before, or this little piece here, or this emotional issue here, or something like that, or like sleep processing or getting into meditation. I got Josh into meditation, so shout out to Josh. He's back on the train
Oh,
again, which is
nice.
good. Um, but yeah, and it's I'd never seen my struggles from the outside, which is interesting. I'd always thought I was the only one with these problems. So that's the huge benefit of having met my type twins. It's just like, wow, so that's what it looks like from the outside. Okay, wow.
Right.
Or, oh man, I do interrupt a lot, or I do have a lot of high energy, or I can see where people say, oh, you're really intense, that
Hmm.
sort of thing. So it's been just seeing that has been eye opening. I'm like, okay, wow, I really see this. All right, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so tell me a little bit about your NI, how you see that working. You were saying in some way it expresses itself a lot in over self-control, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
self-control, discipline. For me, when I, especially when I get my FI involved, right? So like if I decide that, hey, I'm going to do this, then I'll go around you, through you, over you. It doesn't matter. It's
Hmm.
I'm going to get there. So it's kind of, I almost see it like my willpower in a sense.
Yeah.
It's like I will make this a reality, sort of thing. So
Right. So it's a masculine NI. So you solidify your plan and you stick to it to the end, sort of thing.
oh yeah, and it
Yeah.
has worked out that way many times, and
Right.
it's been great. So whatever it is, I set a goal at, and other people see it too. So I people at work have told me that. You know, my family has told me that. Friends have told me that. It's like, look, they're like, hey, when Bryan sets a goal, you know, whatever parameters he said, he's going to meet them exactly, and he's going to get
Right.
it. It doesn't matter. I'll work furiously to get there. It doesn't, lack of sleep, don't eat, doesn't matter.
Right. What about giving
You
up
will
on
have
that
it.
goal at some time? Like, is
Hardest thing in the world.
is there? Yeah. Is are there times where you need to just throw in the hat and be like, okay, you know what? I planned this wrong. The goal was wrong. Something.
Yeah, especially if I'm fixated on something that just doesn't make sense. Like I have an actual example of that is so when I have an associates in software, and I got locked on, you know, values wise onto software, but I never ended up being a software developer or anything like that. And I was just so locked on to doing that, and I wanted to do that, but it didn't make sense. And even getting into game development, and that industry is not a great place to work and stuff like that. But I was still so fixated on I gotta do this. But letting it go has been such a, it's like having a tight fist. You know, you just have to let it go, and it takes so long to let that go, because I really saw that vision. I'm like, hey, I can do this because I know I can. I know I can pretty much make anything work, right? But I have to balancing that with, hey, is this a priority for me? Is this really what I want?
Right.
That's been hard, man. It's been very
How
hard
do
to
you
let that
treat how do you treat obstacles to those plans? What if they're like people or something?
go. So something I want? Oh, it's
Yeah.
I can win them over. If they become like, if they're, let's say, if they're like a negative obstacle, you know, because there's positive and negative obstacles. It's like if there's somebody
Right.
you got to win over, that's easy. You know, you can negotiate, you can use charm, you know, stuff like that, or just ask. Um, but if it's like a really firm obstacle, someone's getting in your way, like I said before, look, I'm going to go around you. I'll find a way around you, or I'll find a way through you, or something. Well, I'm going to win. It's not
Right.
it's not
Would
an
there ever
option.
be a time where you'd put more value on the obstacle than on the plan and allow the obstacle to like allow the plan to fade in favor of the obstacle?
Begrudgingly,
Yeah.
begrudgingly. I I don't like I don't like feeling like I'm losing at something.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a sore loser when it comes to, like, if I'm locked on and I want that goal. It's like I don't, and then maybe I just didn't gather enough info, or just see all the possible scenarios, or just get all the data to be like, hey, look, this isn't really realistic. You didn't do enough gathering on this
Right.
before you made your plan. And my wife is really good, too good, at pointing out, hey, you're not thinking this through. And I'm like, what are you
Uh-huh.
talking about? You know, because for me, I'm going to feel like, hey, I've already worked it out. You've got this. I have a vision. It's going to work. And she'll be like, well, no, you missed this, 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 and that. What about this? And I'm like, oh. And then it almost feels like I lost in that conversation. It's like I have to
Right.
give up my plan, and it feels like, it almost feels like you just took a shot, shot in the heart, right? It's just like, oh, damn, you know, and you killed an idea. You killed something. It's almost like you killed something beautiful. It's
Right.
got to go away now. Don't like it.
What if like I'm gonna keep pushing on this because I just want
Sure.
to sort of get to
No,
so
I know.
like
I know what you're doing. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
let's do it.
So like what if for example your goal sort of would harm your family life in some way?
Oh no, that's not.
Would you
That's
be
the
able to give up
one.
on that goal
Yes, I
easily?
don't easily.
Okay.
Because let's say, to me, my relationship with my wife, my immediate family, or my dog. I don't have kids.
Right.
If it, that's where it stops. If it harms someone, that's where it stops. It's like, that's not. That's not cool.
Uh-huh.
So I'll give up whatever. It doesn't matter.
Would it still be a difficult thing to do to give that up?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's like that goes without saying, but the that's where the values come in. It's like, hey, look,
Right.
this is of value. This takes priority over whatever you think you can accomplish. You know, and those have been hard choices for sure. There
Right.
have been a lot of things that I've had to give up in order to, like, career wise or money wise or whatever, or possibilities, because it just doesn't make sense.
Thank you for your honesty, man. That's really good.
No, of course.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about seeing NI as something that consolidates understandings into one general concept.
You know, that part I haven't seen, like, because I don't, I guess because of the way I use the word concept, like concept seems something so firm, like definitional, you know, it's like,
Uh-huh.
it's very concrete, right? And I don't feel like I have a firm grasp on the concrete necessarily, but it more boils down to, like, I can boil something down to a, you know, just an insight, I guess, is what I would call a concept. It's just like, yeah, I can, it just comes to me naturally. It's like, if I feel like I got something, I got it. It's like, okay, cool. This is what it feels like it means. Got it. That's what I've got. Of course, I've been wrong multiple times. Um, but I'll narrow something down pretty quick.
Right.
Too quick in a lot of cases. So, like, you know, like I know the dangers of that, let's say in investing, for example. So I've been working in finance for over a decade, and, you know, and I like investing, you know, for myself, and, you know, to help grow our retirement and stuff like that. And I've had to be very careful and be way more less quick to narrow down, hey, look, this is going to be a good idea, or hey, I get this system, I get this business, got it, let's just do it. I'd have to be really careful, because when your skin is in the game, you can't, you know, you can't just go with your saviors, I guess, if you want to put it that way. I have to, like, step back, gather more data even when I don't want to. I have to
Right.
wait longer than I want to. It's really, really frustrating. But that's where, like, the discipline comes in and says, hey, look, I know better. It's like, just, you know, chill out. It's like, gather more
Right.
data.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can wait. It's
Right.
excruciating, but, you know, I can do it.
So would you say, like, even though your control over chaos, you have that impulsive nature towards you once you have that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Very. I've learned that I had to put limits on the impulsivity.
Right.
Um, you know, that came out in, you know, like, let's say, just, you know, money spending, right? It's like, hey, you know, I learned early on that, okay, look, I like to have more variety than I think I do. So I like variety. So I'm like, hey, I want to go do this thing. It's like, well, hey, no, you have a budget. Hold on. You know, and it's like, you
Right.
have to, it's a constant tug of war of, hey, I want this thing. And yeah, the variety says, yeah, sure, awesome. But it's like, come back, come back. We gotta, it's
Right.
always a tug of war. So I feel like relatively balanced in that. It's like, but I do
That's
have to,
interesting. Do you
yeah.
feel like variety might be that end goal? Like the very end, all of your plans are going to lead to the variety in some way?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah, actually, yes, yes, because I don't want it to come down to just the same old boring thing all the time, right? I'm not a really, it's like, I do discipline really well, but in from a, I guess from a conscious perspective, I I do like my variety. It's like it, I really do. Like, I don't like doing the same repetitive thing over and over again. That is
Hmm.
really not my bag. Very, very, very impatient and very intolerant of repetition.
Hmm.
So, and then that impulsiveness can come out, and, you know, I'll want to do something different just for the sake of doing it different. But then it'll come back to, oh crap, okay, you know, that didn't work. All right, let's go back to old boring again, you know, because I know it's
Right.
working.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, do you have a way to incorporate variety into your old boring?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do it in spots. So that's where I had to realize that I'm more controlling than I think I am. Like, I do have my IJ box, you know. I've been living in the same, I want to say, 5 mile radius for 13 years.
Right.
So, because it makes sense, it mapped out, it makes sense for the money, it makes sense for my job, all that stuff, right? I want the variety. So I try to get it in different places. So, I like video games, so I play video games, or I'll try to explore as much of the city I live in as I can. And I
Uh-huh.
get that variety in while also being frustrated, but I guess secretly okay with, and I've had to admit that to myself, that I'm really okay with, hey, this is my box. I do want to change it, and I am making
Right.
plans to change it, but it's very hard to let go of the box.
The
You know,
box. Yeah, yeah.
very hard to let go.
Does that box maybe give you the confidence to try that variety in a safe space, in a safe way?
Yes, yes, actually, that's what I do. So I do a lot of, yeah, the way you make it sound is like I do a lot of simulation in my comfortable box and simulate a new box because, like, let's say I have this funny thing when I go on trips. You know, we went on 2 trips this year to just go travel because we've never traveled at all for like the last 12 years because we just didn't have the money. We were saving, saving, saving. You know, trying to do well
Yeah.
and be responsible. And when I'll be really excited about the trip, it's a couple months before we'll book the tickets and everything. But then as it comes closer, you know, both her and I do this, but especially me, I'll start freaking out internally. Like, wait, I don't. But you know, what if we cancel the trip and not leave, right? Because I'm afraid of leaving the box. You know, I know this city,
Mm,
I know Florida, I've been all over, up and down Florida. So that's my box. And it's like, oh, well, I don't want to go to this state that feels like I'm going to the Amazon, you know, I'm just going to another US state. It's like they're all the same
yeah.
kind of. But it feels like I'm going to some, you know, to like the jungle where I'll have nothing. And it just feels
Yeah.
like totally out of my element. But once
No
I get
safe
there,
place to retreat to.
right, right.
Right.
No safe fortress. You know, I don't have my castle anymore.
Right.
And but once I get there, once I do it and I'm freaking out and I don't, you know, plane rides are not fun, but you know, I don't have a fear of flights or anything. It's just not comfortable. And once I get to that new place, it's almost like we're the military. We come in and we establish a base of operations. It's like it's the new box now
Right. The new
for the time
box.
being.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get our supplies, we get everything up, we set up our routines, we're good to go. All right, let's
Right.
go have fun. So
So yeah, like if you were to have to go, I guess, I don't know, just theoretically to in-laws or to some other place where you don't have that box, would you just not go? It's just like,
I hate to say this on air, but yes, I just not go most
yeah,
times.
right,
I now this is coming from a childhood of having been like my parents were always traveling everywhere and just taking my brother and I with them.
right.
So they're very chaotic
Uh,
parents.
yeah,
So and my family, you know, again, we're, you know, you know, I'm half Puerto Rican, half Colombian, you know, by nationality. I was born here in the U.S., but it's a very SF style of living. You know,
yeah,
in the moment, let's go party. You know, whatever, let's go. You know, hey, you know, cousin came in town, or you know, they're 5 hours away. Sure, let's just get in the car and drive. Let's go. You
right.
know, very very EP
Spur of the
like.
moment. Yeah,
Yes, exactly. Very spur of the moment, and I never knew what who was coming over or what thing we're gonna have to do that weekend. It's just like, okay, let's go because I had no choice.
right.
So I just wanted to sit home and play video games, right?
Yeah.
And you know, watch my cartoons as a kid. I didn't get that choice. So
Do you see that as sort of like a positive force that could be like, even though it's disrupting everything, like you call them the disruptors, right?
yeah,
It maybe causes you to like readjust or pivot in some way and build something greater.
yeah, yeah. It's like I have to. Yeah, grudgingly, yes. Like I've seen, like it's been good for me to have to learn to be that flexible because
Right.
otherwise I would have been way more controlling than I know I am. Right? Like it would
Hmm.
have been like my parents were worried early on that you know, I was showing it at 3 years old where I was, you know, I was doing the car lineup thing. I don't have masculine sensory, but I was doing like, I was being very controlling. I was a bit of a germaphobe apparently when I was really young. And
Right.
they encouraged me to, hey, go play in the dirt, go just do whatever. You know, they would really do that to the point where I was convinced that, oh yeah, I'm super flexible and yeah, I don't mind, you know, if plans don't go my way or whatever. You know, I wasn't conscious to that until, you
Hmm.
know, until very recently. So I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then they told me actually literally just last weekend, hey, no, you were really controlling. We had to stop that. We thought you were OCD. Come on. It's like,
Wow. Yeah.
so they convinced me otherwise. Yeah. So good job,
Yeah.
parents. Good job.
Cool. Um, is there anything that you do to gain maybe balance between your NI and SE?
Mm, I, it's more, I guess like the difference between like the play energy and, you know, because I have no problems with that, like resting.
With sleep?
Um, yeah,
You're always
yeah,
go, go, go.
yeah, literal sleep and yeah, NOP sleep.
NOP sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, I was more than I realized. Well, let me answer your question. So the NI and SE, it teeters. It's like its own cycle. So, I'll be fixated on a plan, then I'll go and try to blast play my way through it. Then I'll be like, I'll hit a wall, then I'll have to go gather and say, okay, let me see, where did I go wrong? All right, cool, let me try this again or whatever. And then that's when I'll kind of decide either to give it up. And of course, I'll be massively disappointed if I have to give up on a plan, or an idea or something or any
Right.
vision. And then I'll be like, okay, but then I'll come up with a new one. So it's not
Right.
it balances itself out. So I'm not too worried about my balancing the NI versus the SE.
So I'm trying to think about like OP, for example. OP isn't a plan. OP is just like a system, right?
Yeah.
And you've learned the system, you've invested in it in the system. So that kind of thing, it's not a plan. It's just an understanding of a mechanical understanding of the way something works.
Yeah.
If you found that like there was a critical error in that system, and it doesn't have to be OP, it could be any system, that you really grasp and you have this understanding of, that could also be something that disrupts like your plan a little bit because it's disrupting this
I
understanding.
see where you're getting at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you know, I'd have to do in that case. The analogy I have, or from like real life experience, is when I'm fixated on let's say on a particular, let's say, investment or something, and I really think it's a good idea, and then I realize, hey, look, there's these critical things here. Like, again, my wife is, I've almost gotten a lot of training of getting holes poked into my visions here. So
Right.
it's a painful experience, like,
Yeah.
mentally. It really sucks. It really sucks. She's so good at it.
Hmm.
And it'll seem like, you know, she's telling me you're wrong, but she never says you're wrong. She doesn't actually say that, like, in
She's just
literal.
raising questions that should be raised.
Right,
Right.
right. And then when I think about the question, I say, oh crap. And then I get scared that I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to give up on this. Oh damn it. And then when I think it through and I say, oh, well, yeah, I guess I just have to give it up. And it's just it it feels like you're pulling off a band-aid and you have to pull it off fast to just get it
Hmm.
over with. But I'm very reluctant to do it. But I'm like, all right, well, I lose. And I'm a sore loser, man. So it's one of those where it's like, oh, all right, whatever. Just
Yeah.
and then I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's just like I'm done. Right.
Hmm.
So if there was like a critical error, I'll try to investigate and see if it really is as big of an error as I think it is, because you don't want to jump to a conclusion on that. Hey, there's some peacocking, right? But
Yeah.
it's because I do jump to conclusions because, like, I don't want
Right.
to be
Yeah.
wrong. Like, I don't want it to go away. Um, but I'll see. It depends on because an objections come into OP all the time. This is like, I'm on a
Right.
Facebook group. I read all that stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, yeah, I see that, but careful not to throw out the baby with the bathwater. But
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
if it does have to be, then it has to be. It's just
Yeah.
I don't like it, but you
But the
know,
thing is, if OP is working for you and it is giving you that personal growth, then there's no reason to throw it out, even if it's
no,
completely wrong. Yeah.
yeah, no, because I've gotten, like, let's say that's a good point. Yeah, because let's say it's like, okay, sure, they're tracking some kind of patterns, but they're not sure what, and let's say it's not has nothing to do with personality or whatever or anything like that. Then, well, they are tracking recurring life patterns of problems, which is what I came to it for.
Right.
Um, and they're accurate about that. So I'm like, great. Um, it's like I got value out of that, and I got the lessons, so I can just take that with me. If the system falls apart, then it does.
Yeah.
I don't want it to, because, like, I'm on board with it. I'm like, yeah, this is cool, this is great. I want them to win.
Right.
But yeah, if it doesn't, I've still got what I got. It wasn't useless.
Hmm. Cool, man. Let's talk about your TE then next. It's
Okay.
feminine.
Yep.
Um, do you see yourself wanting validation, I guess, for helping people out, giving them, being useful to people around you?
More than I would like to admit. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
do you have any maybe blast example extrapolation on that you can give?
Yeah. Sure. Oh God. In a work context, it manifests itself as, let's say, the validation is doing tasks that don't need to be done just so you can feel like you got them done, like to feel like you did something useful for the day, right?
Right.
So that always resets to zero every day. So there's that constant need of, hey, I need to do something to feel like I'm worth it, like I'm worth something, right? Which is a terrible, terrible, terrible perspective. Um, at with like family life, like let's say with my family, you know, it manifests in like holidays where I feel obligated that, you know, in order to be a good son, you know, I have to go to this family function, that family function, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I will tell myself, hey, you know, if I feel like not going, because I'll have, you know, it's like, hey, I have my introverted decider too, and it says, hey, I don't feel like going, and it's like, well, no, we have to go because, you know, but because this will happen and this will happen and that will happen and they'll say this and they'll say that, and it's like they won't, they never have. When I didn't
Hmm.
show up to a holiday one time or a couple times, and I always feel better afterwards, but there's always this looming dread of I'm gonna get yelled at, I'm gonna get kicked out of the tribe, they're not gonna like me, you know, that
Mm.
sort of thing. So it happens a lot. It's again, it's almost constant.
Right.
So I've had to learn to be conscious of and learn to say, like for example, in an everyday context with my wife, you know, it's one of those things, right? It can come down to stupid things like, hey, what do you want to watch tonight? You know, after dinner we will watch a show together, and I'll ask her before I ask myself. And
Right.
I've had to learn, as silly as it is, to say, hey, this is what I want to watch, then ask, what do you think? Instead
Right.
of saying, what do you think first? And then never asking myself, I do have an opinion. It's there. I know it. I feel it as a resistance. You know, there's a kind of almost like a body sensation. But um, I'll just go with whatever. And it's very easy for me to just adjust and say, yeah, I wanted to do what you wanted to do all along, you know,
Right.
and just go with it.
I want to go back to that that one thing you said, that that you could go against the tribe because nothing bad has ever come out of it, but you still feel like you constantly need to do it. So so, so the question I want to ask is, maybe if you were going against the tribe more readily and more easily, then bad things would come out. But just because you have that obligation and that that need to constantly please them, that's the reason why, even though if you do miss one, they'll understand it.
I've suspected that.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. I've suspected that. Wow. Yeah. That kind of confirms it. Because, yeah, if you look at it just from like the data, the ratio of it, it's like, well,
Right.
you kind of, you know, 8 or 9 out of 10 times you show up. So if you don't, whatever, you want to do your own thing. Hey, and my family's cool. I mean, they're not, again, it has never been the case ever in factual, you know, SE evidence. It has never happened ever that I've gotten into, you know, into into trouble with them for not going to a holiday thing. It's just I would
Right.
be disappointed, and that feels like, oh my god, the fear that happens before I make that call and say, hey, I'm not going because I don't want to.
Right.
And in years past, I would make up all kinds of excuses, you know, just to make it seem better. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like my parents aren't dumb, you know. It's like if you don't want to go, you don't want to go, right? It's like people can see who you are, you know, what you really want. It's like, come on, you know, at least
Mhm.
people that close. And but I felt like I had to give a reason. You know, I had to give you something that sounded plausible. And I would even get it to the point where I would believe it, right? And I would try to maybe manufacture a way to like embody that and say, yeah, I can't go because of this or whatever. So
Mhm.
it's pretty odd.
Tell me how you see truth.
Oh, it's not absolute. Um, it's it's always it's not singular. There are many truths depending on how you look at it and from what your context is, what perspective you're coming from. So, what seems true to one person could be completely untrue to somebody else. So, to me, it doesn't even, it's like you'll, the truth is somewhere in the middle of all those different perspectives. It's some collection of all of that together. It's difficult to like, you know, define it,
Yeah.
but it's not a singular, there's this one thing objectively out there, right there, there you go. And I'm, you know, if you know, sorry to Ti, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I just don't see it that way at all. I
Yep.
just because I've worked with a lot of, you know, it's like, hey, I've been in IT. I've worked with a lot of ISTPs, especially. Um, you know, it's like, okay, well, this is the one way, and I'm like, okay, well, no, there's like 5 other tools that can do the same thing, or other methods and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be
Right.
just that way, but they're so invested in that one idea.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the answer's out there. You just got to keep looking. You know, it's not.
Yeah. So what you described is really that spectrum of truths. That there's a big spectrum of truths, and somewhere in the middle is where, like, the most optimal choice for truth is for whatever specific purpose you are doing at the moment.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Optimal is the word. Yeah. It's
right.
like, it's the best. I guess you could say yeah, optimal, the optimal truth for the situation.
For the
It's,
situation, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's so.
this
That's very
works.
TE. You really described the way that I, at least I understand TE. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same. That's how I view it. It's whatever
So
works.
if just a little information for what TI sees is that TI sees something pretty much the same. Like they can see the truth on the spectrum. They can use that TE to see the truth on the spectrum. But what they see is that all of those perspectives of truth is really reflecting one absolute truth that's in the middle. Like there is an absolute truth,
Oh,
but all of these
interesting.
different perspectives of it is what sort of makes it seem like there's a spectrum.
I see. So it's like a
And
prism.
yeah,
There is a crystal in the center. It's just you're seeing
there's
different reflections, but there is a solid
there is a
absolute.
solid, yeah. So that's how TI sees it.
Huh.
And then by collecting enough of maybe those perspectives, you can sort of triangulate what the truth is, sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that.
yeah. And it's
Interesting.
like a useless step for TE to do. Like we don't care about this one absolute truth.
Yeah, you narrow down so fast. It's just like, but when you're wrong, it's devastating, right? So
Yeah,
that's,
right. Okay.
uh,
Anyways,
yeah. Not
um,
calling you wrong.
yeah, don't worry. I'm not. um, so okay, what about that FI then? Are you aware of your FI? Are you aware that you have an identity and um, values and things like this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've been aware of values for quite a while. Like, my wife and I are high school sweethearts. It's like once I knew, right? So I was aware of that. And we've been together ever since. So almost
Right.
20 years now. But with other things, it's always come around as just, I know it when I know that sounds very NI, but it's like I know when something's important when I know it's important. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to switch to caring about something if I don't initially care about it. Like it's really hard for me to move on my feelings
Right,
and
because it's so
my
masculine
emotions.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
bad. Like, and it's a very negative space as well. So meditation
Mm-hmm.
has helped a lot with this,
Right.
um, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of anger, a lot of rage, resentment,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. It's a very negative place.
See, so that I saw it earlier, your masculine FI, when I asked you about your NI plan and what if it goes against the family or goes against some value, and you're like, right away, throw it out. It'll be hard, but throw it out
Yeah,
because like the
yeah,
value is there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
So like it
it's
sort of trumps your NI, even your FI in some
yeah,
cases. Yeah.
yeah. In a lot of cases, it has. Yeah, where it's like
Yeah.
I value this. This is a priority. It's like, okay, we can't do this. And much as it hurts, like it really does hurt. Like it hurts the plan. It even hurts the FI. It's like I don't like letting go of something that
Hmm.
I'm so convinced will work, right? Or that's a good idea, or that
Right.
I'm invested in. It's hard.
Does it feel selfish to some degree when you lock in on one of your values and
Yeah, because I want the
yeah.
approval. So like when I know, like if I have an idea for something, or let's say, I want to do this for, I'm thinking about switching to another job or something like that. It like even internally, like I have great examples for that where I've switched jobs within my company about every 2 years. So, whether that was through a promotion or through some other move or whatever, and it always felt incredibly selfish. Like I was committing the worst, awful moral crime, and leaving them behind is how I would spin it in my head.
Uh-huh.
And by going to this new
Wow.
job,
So
this new
that's even
opportunity.
like by going with your values, you're destroying another value, a greater value.
Yeah, yeah, and it hurts so much. So what I end up doing to make myself feel better is I will try to leave it in as good a state as possible so they can keep going on, even though they're gonna be fine. It'll be fine, right? But it's just I feel like I have to leave everything in ship shape. Nothing's left hanging. I don't leave any work undone. It's
Right.
like it's a clean slate. I exit with,
Uh-huh.
with class and grace, and it's like, okay, cool.
So
Even though that's entirely not necessary, you know?
yeah, so it sounds like you don't want them, you want that validation to stay once you're gone, like to not
Yes,
have any complaints against you, be like, oh, he did this, or oh, it's all screwed up because he
that
didn't
terrifies me.
hand it over properly. Yeah.
that's terrifying. Yeah,
Right.
that's, I want to keep a good reputation, and it's paid off, right? Having a good reputation does pay off when you're investing in one place. But
Right.
reputation is, it's everything, right? At least
Mm-hmm.
this is what I tell myself. I want that validation to last.
Mm-hmm.
So I go through whatever I have to do it.
What about your what about your feelings? Are you aware of your feelings?
Oh yeah,
Happiness, that yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah. That's
Um
very easy.
yeah. And
Yeah.
do you take the time to like do you feel responsible? Do you take the time to actually go through the feelings when you need to, the emotions?
I'm learning to be.
Yeah.
That's not an automatic, like, especially, it's very easy for me to stuff them down, which is a good thing in situations where you need to do that.
Right.
Like if I have to get something done, or there's some unpleasant work or something unpleasant I have to do, it's like, it doesn't matter how you feel, get it done, right?
Right. But
So
then you
it's
need
very
to get
easy
that
for me.
sleep later to
Exactly, you always pay for it later.
right.
So, and it's, yeah, I'm learning to be responsible for it, and be patient with it, because in the moment it's so fast. It's so easy for me to just shut it off
Right.
and just go with what works in the moment.
Mhm.
Especially if I feel strongly about something, or if I disagree,
Right.
I'm aware of it. It hits me, and then I just go,
Yeah.
"Hey, no, no, shut up.
So you
Just get
do
out of
get
here."
that emotional tidal wave if you don't pay attention to it?
Yes, yes. So the you could say, like, especially back in my when I was crazier,
Right.
in my working life, I would pay for it every 6 months,
Okay.
on the dot.
Wow.
And then recently, it was in the last few months, it was like every 9 to 12 days when I
Oh,
didn't.
wow. Yeah, that's
I was
really
tracking it in the spreadsheet and everything. So now I'm happy to report that the cycle's getting longer. Now the last one was, it was a 22-day difference.
right.
So, because, hey, David Shan said, "Hey, track it." I'm like, "Cool, track it."
Yeah.
So it's like, if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. And I notice, and it's the same theme. It's,
What's
and
the
it'll,
theme? Yeah.
the theme. Yeah, the theme. So the theme generally centers around either relationships, like friends and stuff like that, or reaching, um, or having visions of reaching long-held dreams that you've had to stuff down for a while because it didn't make sense at the time, stuff like that. And so it's not always negative. It could be positive or negative, but it's about just strongly held feelings or values, like, or especially the one of the worst episodes. And I'm talking like, oh, it's not quite a crying routine because I can't summon it on command. Um, I'd have to really try for that. But I know when it's coming. I know when it's time to, like, okay, it's time to go have a cry, right? And it's been a while, and they'll usually be like 30, 45 minutes straight.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's a huge outpouring of emotion, and I feel like I feel like I did an intense workout, after that. I'm like, I'm
Right.
just
Yeah.
done for the rest of the day. But when I learned, I hit like an insight where a new way of viewing myself, to look back at all the mess that I went through to get to where I am today, um, financially, relationship, career wise, everything, right? Just the whole path, to really look back at myself as, when I was, I started on this path when I was like 19, to just see myself as this scared little kid, who's just trying to make it in the world and doesn't know what he's doing. He wasn't prepared for any of this, and he had to learn it all himself. You know, that kind of sympathy, that kind of pity for
Right.
that humanity. Um, that's the theme. It's the humanity of it, of
Right.
difficulty.
Is the theme, is there a certain feeling that keeps coming back, like a certain sort of like, um, maybe you're not getting the recognition you need, or your friends aren't paying enough attention to you, or is there something like that that's trackable?
Yeah, I would say it's a lot to loneliness, because I talked about it a lot with Josh and Austin. Again,
Uh,
in my crazy, I call it the decade, or the crazy 10 or 12 years, because it really was like I didn't have any friends, literally none,
uh-huh.
zero. My wife was my only friend, so I was all in focused on career. I would go to work, and yeah, I would socialize at work and stuff like that. Again, it worked out fine. Feminine TE, it's easy, but it's no close relationships. I would even only see my family, like, you know, once every 5, 6 months, and they live like 30 minutes away. So it's really not that far.
Right.
And it was just, I was just so on a mission. So there was that loneliness, and that, I guess you could say, that lack of validation, but it was just there. So making peace with what I put myself through and what I felt I had to do to make it, in the world,
Uh-huh.
and stake my flag. Yeah.
And so, like, have you taken steps to rectify that, to get friends, to get that relationship, and has that sort of maybe helped that FI tidal wave a little bit?
Yes, it has. I've noticed that difference with joining the Facebook group because I wasn't on
Right,
Facebook for that decade either. I
right,
I had it initially, like right after high school, and then I just said, no, I'm not going to do this because I didn't want to deal with like negative tribe validation,
right.
because I was making changes in my life. Like I moved to a different city completely, 4 hours away. I wasn't able to stay in touch with my friends anymore, with some hobbies and stuff. And I didn't want them to be mad at me. So I ran away from the validation or from the negative tribe feedback. I ran away, and I isolated myself instead. I made new friends, and then that didn't work out for various reasons. They weren't good quality friends, and we, again, drifted apart. Stuff happens.
Hmm.
Um, but it would have been nice, to have friends. So now the Facebook group is like, hey, I've met a lot of people. We're talking regularly. It's really cool. I'm building a relationship again, and it's really nice.
Cool, man.
Um, so I think that's contributing to the longer cycles because it's still always going to happen. So it never goes away. My
Right,
feelings will always be there.
right,
So
yeah. You just have to deal with them before the tidal wave comes, basically.
yes, yeah. So I try my best, especially even in little daily moments. Like let's say maybe some bad news on the news or something that's like leaning into the my leaning into sympathy and empathy for other people's plight, right? Because it's very easy
Hmm.
for me to minimize something bad that's happening to somebody else, because I don't want to go there in myself. I don't want to feel what they're feeling.
Hmm.
It's very easy for me to say, okay, well, that didn't work in that situation, or it doesn't work to feel like this right now, or
Right.
if they had done this, it could have been different. So it's like I don't. It's like that's not cool. And
What about your sense of identity? Do you have an idea of who you are?
ooh, that's the tricky one. That's the tricky one. I want. I mean, yes, but it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's difficult for me to even define it. Like I've at the recommendation of Dave and Sharon, I'd started like following other type twins, that are, let's say, older. Like so, in
Right.
my time follows James Wedmore, right? So I recently got into this idea of, oh, what's identity? Oh, okay, now I get, how to change your identity. Oh, how do you even identify it? What is it? What are your values? That
Hmm.
writing that down helps. Um, so that's been a growth thing. So before, no, I just felt like it was just not that it was flexible, just like almost like it wasn't there. I could be anybody or anything, right? I
Right.
didn't have anything rooted or fixed that I needed to stay loyal to.
And did you
It was
realize that it's like your job to find that rootedness and that fixedness and to define it and say, this is who I am? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There was something James Wedmore said. He said, it was a podcast I literally listened to yesterday. It was, identity is, I am that which says I am. So you generate your own identity. So
Right.
you're responsible. You have to do it. That blew me away. I was like, wow, okay, wow. Um, yeah. So I was ready to
Yeah.
hear that.
So you're the one who's defining your identity, basically, is what he's saying. Yeah.
Right, right. And
And
I'm like,
so
wow.
by expressing defining your identity, you're expressing your identity in a way as well,
Yes.
and letting you
Yeah.
see more who you are. Okay.
Yeah. Because the concept of expressing yourself or expressing your identity was always foreign to me. I'm just like, what the
Right.
hell does that mean? I just never understood what that meant. Um, so
But
I'm
like
learning to.
saying, but like by defining who you are, that's the one that's saying that's who you are. The one
Yeah.
who's defining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the
So
one.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That blew me away. So I'm still
Yeah.
processing that. I'm still
So
trying to
like,
think
have you
about what
made
that
any
really means.
definitions? Have you made anything? Are you like, I'm someone that doesn't give up. I'm someone who works out every day. I'm someone
Oh, I have a
who is
list of
nice
that.
to
Yes.
people or things like that.
Yes, yes, yes. I have a list of that. So yeah, and it's almost like when you actually look at it, you realize that you do have an identity. It's like you've
Hmm.
always had one, and you've always thought these things about yourself. So yes, I am a person who works out. Yes, I don't give up on whatever I set my sights on, and I really do have a Google Doc of everything. So I have a whole
Right. Oh
list.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I really tried to do it because and this was, and I stopped before I heard the James Wedmore podcast yesterday, but I was doing it because of James Clear in Atomic
Right.
Habits. He was talking about
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
change your identity, and I got the book, and I was like, oh, let me write this down. Let me come up with, because I found that the problem was that I was having was because I wasn't processing my identity and really paying attention to it, I had very narrowly specifically defined identities that were not flexible
Mm,
enough and that were very brittle. So by reading that, I'm like, oh, okay, let me come up with a more robust, more flexible identity that's solid, but not so narrow on this one thing. You know, I
mm,
have to do this thing. And it's like, yeah, not really, right? And I've had to let go of that. And just being aware of it was the
right.
hardest challenge. But yeah,
Um, we'll just glance over SE really quick because we sort of talked about it with NI.
sure.
But do you feel like you're missing information, that there's things hidden from you? And do you freak out when you've discovered something that's been hidden the whole time and you didn't know? Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, the freak out is like it's like a 5.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. Now, when it matters to me, so like let's say, you know, I'll freak out about, I don't know, market movements in the economy, or where's the
Right.
market going? Where's the economy going to go? You know, what's going to happen with negative interest rates and stuff like that? Am I prepared? You know, I don't have enough information. When is it going to happen? You can't predict that stuff, right? Which is
Right.
very frustrating. So that would be the highest level of freak out, and I would freak out, and it would last for maybe about I don't know, a day or two, and then it goes away.
Right.
Um,
That's
it'll
interesting how
balance
you
itself
said
out.
the stuff you can't predict is the most frustrating. It's the most
Hell
difficult
yeah,
things for
man.
you. Yeah.
Oh
All the
yeah,
things in your life you
I
can't
got to
predict.
see it coming. If I can't see it
Right.
coming, how will I know? So,
Right.
and then there's other things too. So I do misinformation, not even consciously intending to. Like little things like, you know, the common low SE stereotypes of, oh, I forgot to, you know, check that my microphone was on, or
Right.
oh, you know, the family joke actually. So I was I was so convinced before typing that I had masculine S at least.
Yeah, because
Um,
your memory seems pretty strong.
it's trained. It's
Okay.
trained for in certain spots, but
Right.
I'll have funny moments about my physical awareness. So, for example, so I will have, and my wife laughs at this all the time. It's hilarious because it is fun. We will drive by the same landmark for like 7 years, and then
Oh, wow.
I'll go to her one day and I'll say, "Hey, honey, is that new?" She'll be like, "No, that's been there for 7 years. We've driven by it every day. What do you mean it's new?" It's like, and I was like, "No, that's got to be new. I'm convinced that it's brand new. I've never seen it before."
Right.
And then she'll tell me, "No, I told you, I pointed it out to you when it was new, and you said, oh, neat." And I even acknowledged it and just out, you just over my head. It's just forget
Right.
about it. And yeah, and it just won't even notice it. So
That's pretty interesting.
yeah, my
Um,
family's been telling me that too, my whole life. They're like, "Brian, your memory's terrible. What are you talking about?"
but it's not memory, it's just being unaware.
Right,
Right.
right.
And SE in essence is just awareness of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do run into like not into walls literally, but like I don't sometimes I'll forget how like wide my shoulders are, and I'll hit the side of a door or something like
Uh-huh.
that. God, it hurts
Yeah.
because I'll just be thinking of something, and then you know I'll just knock my shoulder into a
Yeah.
door.
Yeah. I personally have had to train my SE a lot because I'm a bit taller and I hit my heads on things that like,
Oh God, that's gotta be
yeah,
hard.
because like the world isn't made for abnormally shaped people. And so, yeah, just
Nope.
the other day I pulled open a door and I hit myself on the head with like something sticking out from the door
Oh no,
because like nobody thought about taller people. Yeah.
they didn't design for you at
Yeah.
all. How tall are you?
I'm not that tall. Like I'm only like 6'3", but I mean still it's
That's no kidding. Wow. I mean,
yeah.
wow. I mean, I'm on the short side. I'm 5'9", so
Right. Yeah.
it's yeah, not average height,
But
but yeah.
so like that kind of SE thing sort of gets you where like you think it should have been like this is a door, man. People should have opened it.
Tall people exist. Why didn't
Yeah.
you think of this? Engineers, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they don't design for the extremes
Right,
ever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to know about your animal flow because it does sound like you are reading a lot. What does it take for you to get to that reading state?
Just something I'm interested in. So I the best analogy I have is, or the comparison I guess is you know, it depends on my interest. So if I'm not interested, I will tie Lopez the crap out of something. Like I'll just
Hmm.
go, it's like, all right, I know what I want. Yeah, I got this nugget by, right? So I
Right.
can do that. But that's not my habit. If I'm interested in it, again, it's if it's my goal to extract whatever it is I think is in this book, or this article or this course or anything, right? I will do whatever it takes. I will read as much as I have to. I will, stay up late. I will spend every waking moment reading this, downloading this, taking in that information, and then trying out some of it. So I'll take in information and try it out, see if it works in reality. And it's like, all right, does this work? Can I use this? No, that didn't work. Okay, what did I miss? All right, let me go back and find the information.
Right.
And I'll just keep going in that cycle until something works and it hits. And then when I feel like I've gotten it, um, I like to keep I like to have the keep the idea that, yeah, I'll go back and read that, and I often don't, right?
Right.
So I'll go back if I need something, but I generally won't stick
So
with it.
right. So once you have a system that works, right, or some goal that you have already planned and solidified,
Some
and
understanding or something,
right,
yeah,
something, yeah, you've got this
yeah.
already nailed down. You won't tend to go and do that consume. You'll have to sort of force yourself to do that.
Yes, because I have to remind myself, like, especially if it's important. Like, for example, like if you make an investment in like a stock or something like that, it's like, yeah, you have to do a lot of consume before you make the decision to go ahead and do that. It's like, are the financials good? Does it
Right.
is it all good, right? All right, it's worth investing. Okay, you put money in it, but then you have to keep up with it. So you almost have to be responsible for that consume. It's like, all right, look, I can't just own something and not know anything about it, or at least not be somewhat aware. So I do have to force myself to consume
Right.
more, or read an annual report, or read the news about something, or about a certain company or whatever. Because it's like, I do find it valuable, but it is tedious. It's like, oh
Hmm.
man, more effort for this. It's like, I've already figured this out. I get it. It's going to be fine. That's what I.
What about getting confirmation for whatever NI concept you have or NI plan? Like, will you go to consume to get to confirm that, oh, I'm right? Is that something that you enjoy doing, or
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes,
yeah,
to be fully honest, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'll do that, and then I'll feel that it's like, hey, look, confirmation bias. Come on, man. It's like,
right,
go do more than just like try to disconfirm. You know,
disconfirm? And it's okay. What about that disconfirming? Is that something you're afraid to do? Is that something that's just sort of
not so much afraid. It's more that it's tedious and that it sucks when it happens. So I'm
right?
reluctant. I guess, yeah. I guess there is fear down there. There is fear down
Yeah,
there for sure. Yeah, I'm afraid to do it, but it's like, well, too bad. It's because there's something, again, this works best with something that's bigger than just my fears, right? It's like, it doesn't matter how I feel about it in the moment. It's like,
uh-huh.
look, to reach this, I guess, ultimate goal, it's like, look, you want to be financially stable, you want to do all this. It's like, get over it, whatever it takes, get over it, do little by little if you have to, fine, and then I'll make it into a habit or a daily habit or
Right.
a discipline or something that makes sense and fits in my day,
And when
and I'll
would you
just do it.
naturally go into sleep then after all this?
It tends to happen in the evenings. So it's kind of predictable. Like everything will just sort of shut down. And sometimes it happens, that's in the evenings typically, but sometimes it'll happen unexpectedly. Like I'll just be like, I'll know I'm on a longer sleep tidal wave when suddenly, when I had a plan for what I wanted to accomplish the next day or in the week, and just nothing
Uh-huh.
happens. Just nothing. Like I don't have the energy. I don't have the everything. Even what I'm normally good at feels like effort, and nothing's firing quickly like I wanted to, and I get as much more sleep than I usually do, like
Right.
actual sleep, and the energy just isn't there,
What
and that's when I have to kind of sit with it.
So what about going over all of your feelings and your values and refining them and processing your values, that sort of thing, that sort of idea of sleep. So like when you finally do get around, or if you're forced to be alone, or you get around to being alone and you actually get to actually go into your own head and your own values and stuff, when you're not actually planning for the future, but you're actually sort of digesting what's happened in the past. Um, do you is it overwhelming? Is there way too much that you have to go through and wade through and you just don't want to do it? Or is it like searching for something that you can't find? You just want to do it, but you don't know, there's nothing there to process.
It's the latter. So
Yeah.
it's the latter initially, until, because I'll have to start rummaging around. And again, I do have in like a it sounds very hokey, but I do know that I have that inner knowing of when it's time, and I can't escape it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, it's time, and it's like, okay, let's sift through. And then I don't know what the hell I'm looking for. It's just, what am I supposed to do? But then it gets the outpouring. Then you start to either the crying will begin, or I'll have some kind of like just insight over, okay, this is how I'm feeling about this, or, oh, I feel this way because of
Mm.
this. For Savia actually gave me a really good way to kind of speed this up, because I didn't really have tools I used to journal quite a lot, but I was always frustrated with the process because it's just goes all over the place. And I don't, it just, I
Yeah.
didn't like it. It didn't make any sense. I couldn't nail anything down. And but she told me to use Toyota's technique of the 5 whys about why you feel a certain way. So just keep asking your question, and it gets to the root. It actually works,
Yeah.
and it gets there
Yeah.
really fast. And I'm like, this is amazing. This actually helps, and that helped me a couple weeks ago. Actually, there was some big whys that I had, or why did I feel this way about this, or why do I get angry about this all the time, or whatever. And then when I really come down to it, a lot of it came down to very common themes: fear, loss of control, um, and just fear. It all mostly centers around fear.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was surprising. And then once I got it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just afraid. Okay, cool. Feel afraid. It's fine. Maybe we can do some gathering. What is it you're afraid of
Right.
exactly?
And
You
that's
can,
really powerful too, to know what's holding you back from accomplishing those goals. Like, because that's the full circle, right? Because you want, in
yeah,
the end, you want to accomplish those goals, and you need to figure out what's holding you back in order to
yeah,
actually do it. So it does end up being useful in the end, I guess.
yeah, it does. And I even found a way, of course, to rope my wife into it because last play, right? So,
Right.
I would tell her, hey, ask me why. I'd have her do it.
Uh,
And it's almost like I have to express my feelings to the tribe too. So that's
hmm.
like, oh crap, so that's even scarier. So it ups the stakes, and you almost get like a purer result almost out of it. But I do spend a lot of time alone as well, so that's just something I've always been used to.
Yeah.
It's not. I
But then
like
you
having
have
alone
that
time.
alone time where you're planning things mostly, no?
Yeah, or I'm
Yeah.
exploring something. So it's like
Right. So it's not
it's
even,
IJ introvert time,
yeah.
not
Right.
sleep. It's
It's not
not.
sleep.
No, it's not dialing down your values. So doing that, I have to force myself to do it, schedule it, set a timer, say, okay, you don't want to do this, but just give it 25 minutes.
Right.
Just give it some time. And then if you don't feel like doing it after that, then you're done. You did it. Okay, great. You got wherever you got. But often enough, I'll end up spending an hour and a half, two. I'll get into a flow and I'll want to keep going with it.
Cool, man. Really awesome to talk to you, Bryan. Do you have anything you want to promote?
Nah, nothing to promote.
No,
No,
no, nothing.
no,
Do you have any
no,
final
nothing.
message maybe for anyone of your type or of another type or?
Oh man, let's see. That's a really good question. Well, I'd say the message from my type would be meditate. Definitely meditate. I've been doing it for a year straight. Haven't broken the streak.
Hmm.
Um, just do it. It'll slow you down. Just slow down. Oh my God, slow down. Just say it's okay to stop.
Hmm.
You have it's the standard NF message, right? NF sleep message. You have worth even if you're not doing something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's been the hardest thing for me to learn, and I'm still learning it. It's like it's really hard. But for
Awesome, man.
all types in general, though, it's like you know just I guess what would
Yeah,
be the
it's a cool,
message?
that is a cool message. Like you have worth even if you're not doing something. Slow down.
Yeah, and that's a big discovery because I did not think that way for a long
Right.
time. Like I really didn't. Um, I thought everything was just when and what I did and how much I made and what I accomplished that day, that year, anything like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and for everybody, I mean, meditation is good for everybody. So I wanted to think of a good message for everybody else, but it's like
Yeah.
I don't want to say just do your demons, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's don't do them too hard
Right.
because you will pay for it. So
Awesome, man.
yeah,
Thanks a lot, Bryan. Have a good one.
you too, Benjamin. Thanks.
Yeah.